right, so here we go. We're going to analyze this function, okay? So we've done some of this already. And the analyzing part is I wrote, this graph is on twice, so we're going to use this 2 different times. And I'm going to ask you questions about the graph. All right? This is all part of your functions. This analyzing the graph will come up in Algebra 2, it'll come up in pre-calc, it'll come up in calc, right? So the better you understand it now, the easier it's going to be then. So here's a couple questions I'm going to ask. We've already discussed the domain and range, right? What's the domain of the function? Okay, so here's my graph. When I talk about the domain, what am I talking about? Am I talking about how far to the left and to the right it goes, or am I talking about how low and how high it goes? Left and right. Okay, so let's go left to right. Then I got a couple other questions. It talks about the domain, range, find f of 3, f of 5, x-intercepts, y-intercepts. Okay, so what I want to do first is I'm going to label this graph a few different places. All right, and label it with me. So I'm going to label all my points that are labeled on the graph and a couple other points. So let's start with this one. This coordinate here is -9, comma, -2. I'm also going to label any x-intercept, so anything that lands on the x-axis. -7, comma, 0. I'm going to label this one here, which is -6, comma, 5. Okay. I have another x-intercept here. It's not exactly on -4, so I'm going to label this as -3.75, comma, 0. All right, I'm just estimating this one.
Do you want to write that with a color pencil?
Say it one more time.
Should we write that with a color pencil?
You can do some regular pencil, that's fine. All right, and then I have another coordinate here. So I got -1, comma, -6. I have a y-intercept here. I like that coordinate. This is going to be -5. We'll say 5.25, comma, 0. Another coordinate here, which is 3, comma, -3. And my last coordinate here, which is 9, comma, -8. All right, so I'm listing all the major coordinates I see. Anything that crosses the x-axis I'm interested in. My y-intercept I'm interested in. My lows and highs of the graph. Anything that has anything that goes really up, a corner where it goes really high up. Right, so I'm looking at all those pieces here. So my endpoints I'm looking at, my high points, my x-axis, my x-intercepts here. Any low points. My y-intercept comes up, another high point, another low point. Right, so most of these coordinates are going to come up in these questions that I ask. All right, so the first question I'm asking is, where's the domain and range? Okay, so domain is what? How far to the left, how far to the right? Now, I labeled all the x and y coordinates. But for most of these questions I'm going to ask you, I'm only going to talk about the x coordinates. Right? I labeled all of them, but for most of these questions, I'm only going to be looking at the x coordinates. So for the first ones, I'm saying how far to the left, how far to the right? Well, what's the smallest x value you have versus what's the biggest x value you have? Well, where's the smallest x value? Well, I'm going to go on my graph and go all the way to the left. And where do I stop? Yeah, so my smallest x value comes here at -9. And I'm going to look at my graph, I'm going to start my origin, and go all the way to the right. Where does my biggest x value stop? At 9. So what's my domain? Yeah, so bracket -9, comma 9 in interval notation, or I can do -9 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 9. All right, so domain, range, how far to the left, how far to the right. Your domain, sorry. Your range. Now what? What's the difference now? The range is how what? Yeah, how low it goes, how high it goes. All right, cool. So here's my graph. How low does this go? My lowest point, I can see on my graph, I highlighted it. My lowest point's right here. All right, so that means I'm going to go all the way down here. And just to draw myself a little line here, my lowest coordinate is, now this is the range, so which coordinate am I looking at? The x or the y? Y. So my lowest coordinate here is -8. And here's my highest coordinate here. That's the top of my graph. What's the highest coordinate here? 5. All right, so my lowest y coordinate is -8. My greatest y coordinate is 5, and that's the range of the graph. So it goes from -8 to 5. So -8, comma, 5. There was closed circles on both of those, so inclusive on both of those. Remember when you're writing domain and range, the difference between range is now you're using your y values. So y is greater than or equal to -8 or less than or equal to 5. Right? And those are your two notations. So now we have our domain and range. Any questions so far? Okay. Some of these are nice. Find f of 3. Now we just came out of this. And what does the 3 represent? Is that my x value or is that my y value? F of 3. Is that the x value or the y value? F of 3. The x, yeah. So I'm telling you, I'm giving you a coordinate. Really, this is 3 comma something, right? So f of 3 equals what? So I'm giving you the x coordinate. Right, so I would normally plug this into my function, but I don't have a function to plug into. Right? What I'm going to do is look at my graph. So where's the x value 3? Well, 1, 2, 3. So anything here, right, there's where my x value is 3. Well, where does my graph hit that? Is there any part of my graph that has an x value of 3? Yeah. Where? Right here. This coordinate right here has an x value of 3. Well, 3 comma what? That's what I'm asking for. So I know so at 3, so my function is 3, so at the x value of 3, what's the y value that matches up with it or pairs up with it? -3. So that's all that's asking here. When x is 3, what's y? -3. Okay, so that's the notation. So I'm giving you the x, you give me the y. Well, the other way around is I give you the y value. Well, here I said f of x equals 5, right? So I'm telling you that I have a y coordinate of 5. What's the well, where? Where do you have a y coordinate of 5? At what x value? So let me look at my graph. Where's 5? Oh, here's 5 here. So where in the graph has a y coordinate of 5? Yeah, oh, this coordinate right here has a y coordinate of 5. And what's the x coordinate that goes with that y coordinate of 5? -6. So in this case, I gave you f of x equals 5. So I'm telling you what the y value is 5. So the x value here is -6. So x equals -6. So it's just reading the graph. So f of something, did I give you the x or did I give you the y? And you're giving me the other coordinate. Right? Easier than plugging in for an equation, right? If you plug into the equation, you plug in the x and you solve for y. Or if I give you the y, you plug in for y, you solve for x, right? A little more work. Here it's a lot less work. You just got to look for the coordinate on the graph. All right, x-intercepts. X-intercepts are what? What are x-intercepts? The coordinates that cross the x-axis. Okay, so where's my x-axis? Okay, so here's my x-axis here. All right, this is my x-axis. What coordinates are on that x-axis? I got 1, 2, and that's it. There's 2 coordinates on the x-axis. Okay, so these are my x-intercepts. So what are these coordinates? The first coordinate is what? -7 comma 0, and the second coordinate is -3.75 comma 0. So those are my x-intercepts. So when it says list the x-intercepts, all right, there it is. So first one, -7 comma 0. Second one, -3.75 comma 0. Easy enough. The x-intercepts are the ones that lie right on the x-axis. All right. Well, then we got list the y-intercepts. Well, if the x-intercepts are the ones on the x-axis, where are the y ones? On the y-axis. Okay, so I'll draw a little line here and just remind myself. This is my y-axis. Okay, is there a coordinate that lies on the y-axis? Yeah, right here. This coordinate right here lies on the y-axis, which is why I highlighted these all in the beginning. So I highlighted anything, all my x-intercepts, my y-intercepts, any tops and bottoms of the graphs, the endpoints. Okay, what's this y-intercept? -5.25 comma 0. But I actually made a mistake on that one. This should have been what? How should I have written that? 0 comma -5.25. Sorry. So 0 comma -5.25 is the y-intercept. So 0 comma -5.25. All right, so far we got the domain, we got the range. We found some values, f of 3, and again, we can find anyone, f of 1, f of 2, f of 5, okay? I give you the x, you solve for y. I give you the y, like number 4, I give you the y value of 5, you give me the x. Okay, cool. The x-intercept, anything on the x-axis. The y-intercept, anything on the y-axis. All right. So here's where it gets a little more challenging. List the intervals where f of x is increasing. All right. List the intervals where f of x is increasing. Okay. I'm going to erase a few things here, this is where I want you guys to use your colored pencils. I'm going to start all in on the far left side, and I'm going to draw on this graph until it stops to increase. If I draw from left to right, is it increasing here? Would you say that part's increasing? Yeah, so if I keep drawing on this, this is increasing, stop right here. Can I continue? Will it still increase if I continue? Okay, so this part here is all in red is where it's increasing. Good? If I continue, and now what am I doing here? This part here is decreasing, so let's go change my color here. So this part here in blue, I'll use red for increasing. In blue here, this is the part, now this is my part that's decreasing. Okay, then I get to the bottom here, and then what am I doing? I'm going back up, so this is the part where I'm increasing. So, increasing, decreasing. And then I keep going from here, and what's this curved part doing? Yeah, it's curved, but it's still decreasing. So I've just labeled my whole graph here with the parts that are increasing and all the parts that are decreasing. Okay. Now I want to tell the reader or whoever's asking, where is it increasing? So what I want you guys to do for this part is all your coordinates, where -9, -2, I want you to erase the y value. And then at -6, 5 at that top here, I want you to erase the y value. I don't care about the y value anymore. The only time I'm going to ask you about the y value is what's the range and what's the y-intercept. Other than that, I'm not going to ask you. Okay, so if I am asking you on what interval, and that's just another way of saying between what two x values is the graph increasing? What's the first interval where it's increasing from left to right? From what? From -9 all the way to -6. Okay, so increasing. -9 all the way to -6. And if it's increasing or decreasing, I'm going to put parentheses there. That's the first interval. We could do set notation as well, but interval notation is easier. All right, is that the only place it's increasing? Okay, so let me go back. Where else is it increasing? Well, I'm going to scratch that out. From -1 to 3. So this whole part here is my next part where it's increasing. So from -1 all the way to 3. So I'm going to write this here. So -1. All the way to 3. And I'm going to come back down to my graph one more time. Is there any other areas where it's increasing? Okay, so one last thing here. Because I have two different intervals where it's increasing, I'm going to put a little union here in the middle. So the union just represents, right? There's two places where it's increasing. Cool? Did I talk about the y values at all? Where it's increasing? Never again. Only for the range and the y-intercept. I mentioned the y values. Everything else, always about the x. All right? Well, where is it decreasing? Okay, well, let me go back to my graph here. Well, everything is in blue is where it's decreasing. So at what x value does it start to decrease? Yeah, it starts to decrease here at -6. Where does it stop decreasing? At where? What's the y value here? Oh, I'm sorry, what's the x value? Always the x value. So I'm going to erase this y value here. So where does it start increasing at? Where does it start to decrease? At -6. Where does it stop to increase at? -1, right? So it starts at -6 and stops at -1. Okay, so there's my first interval. -6, comma, -1. Always from least to greatest, right? -6 is smaller than -1. All right, where else? Well, I got this one checked. Is it decreasing anywhere else? Yeah, it's decreasing here and all the way to here. Okay, I'm going to erase these y values because I don't want them to trip me up. Okay, so where is it decreasing again? From where to what? Yeah, from 3 all the way to 9. Okay, so from 3 to 9, it's decreasing as well. So from 3 to 9. And since there's 2 places where it's decreasing, what should I put in between these intervals? My union. All right, that's where it's increasing. All right, always about the x. Questions on that? The last one is this notation here. It says, where is f of x greater than 0? Okay, and all that means is if I have a coordinate, right, so you can have some x coordinate, and I want to know where I have positive y values. Right, so that's what I know. That's pretty much what my notation is, right? Where is f of x greater than 0 is really me just saying, okay, so what x coordinates has positive y values? Where are my y values greater than 0? Where do I have positive y values? And on the other side, where is f of x less than 0? Okay, then again, this is going to be, okay, I have x coordinates, but where are the y values have negative y values? Right? That's all that means. So greater than 0, my y's are greater than 0, means my y values are positive. F of x is less than 0, means my y values are negative. Questions? All right, so I'm going to use the second graph that's to the right of this. All right, so I'm going to use a fresh graph here, and they're both exactly a fresh graph. And I'm going to, for myself, I'm going to think about this line here. I'll highlight this line for myself. Everything above that line is positive, right? This is my x-axis. Anything above this line has a positive y value. Right? So anything above here has a positive y value. So positive y value. Anything below this line has a negative y value. Right? So any part of my graph above that x-axis will have a positive y value. Any part of that graph below the x-axis will have a negative y value. All right, so I'm going to start shading here. And I'm going to highlight, I'm going to do red for positive, and I'll do blue for negative. Okay, so here I am. Let me go with my red here. So I see from here, starting here, that's all positive y values. All the way to here, all positive y values. Do I have any more positive y values? No. The rest of this is what? Well, this piece down here is going to have a negative y value. This piece down here is all negative, and negative, and all negative. Right, so there's a part of my graph, right, this part here in red, that each one of these coordinates will have some kind of positive y value. So let me just verify that, right? So this coordinate here is negative 6, 5, positive y value. Right? I don't care about, I just want to know where the y values are positive. Where? Okay, that part. All right, so that was just a little verifying. Okay, so now when I talk about the intervals of where it's positive, well, where does it start to be positive? Right here. What x coordinate is that? 7, right? And where does it stop being positive? Right there at, we said this was negative 3.75, right? We got a little, so again, I'm not even going to write the y values. I don't care about the y values. But I know starting at 7 I'm 0, so am I positive at 7? No, I'm at 0, but 7.1, am I positive? 7.2, 7.3, so close to 7, and then, or negative 7, excuse me. So as close to negative 7 as possible, and anything between negative 3.75 and 7 will give me a positive y value. So where is my function positive? Anything from negative 3.75 all the way to negative 7, not including those two numbers, right? Because those two numbers are exactly 0, which is why I put my parentheses. So one interval, right? I can write it as one interval where it's positive. All right. Where is it negative? Well, let's read this left to right. Starting here, what's the y value here? I'm sorry, what's the x value here? So negative 9. And where does it start? Where does it change from positive to negative? At what coordinate? At negative 7. Okay, so from negative 9 to negative 7, right? This interval here is all negative. Okay. Then it goes positive, and then it comes negative again. Where does it start to become negative again? At what? Yeah. Well, negative 4, or we're going to say negative 3.75. And then where does it stop being negative? Well, if I follow it all the way through, it's just negative, negative, negative. Yeah, is it still underneath the x-axis? Yeah, negative, negative. So it's negative all the way to the very end of it. And where's the end of this graph? At 9. All right, so my second interval is from negative 3.75 all the way to 9. So negative 3.75 all the way, So 2 intervals, sorry. My first interval is this one, from negative 9 to negative 7. This is the first interval where it's negative, right? That's that first part of the blue graph here. And the second part is everything else. So from negative 3.75 all the way to 9. And since there's 2 intervals where it's negative, what do I have to put in between the 2 intervals? A union. So, recap, finding your domain and range, left to right, domain, how low to how high, your range. F of 3, I'm giving you the x value is 3. Find me the y value that corresponds with that coordinate that has an x value of 3. F of x equals 5. I gave you the y value is 5. Find me the coordinate that has the y value of 5. The x-intercepts is everything on the x-axis. Your y-intercepts everything on the y-axis. Where is it increasing? Right? So where is it going up? Where is it going down? Where is it decreasing? When you tell me where it is, increasing or decreasing, you always reference the x-coordinates. Where is it, and then where is it greater than 0? Where is f of x greater than 0? Where is f of x less than 0? Draw that little imaginary line there on the x-axis. Anything above the x-axis is positive. Anything below the x-axis is negative. And again, when you tell me where it's positive or negative, you're always telling me in terms of your x values, right? So putting all your coordinates there is great. Erasing the y values there, or just like just quickly erase, I think that helps too. Any questions? Okay, let's do one more. So here's your next one. Here's 2 graphs to it. I'm going to give you guys a minute to try to figure it out on your own. Cool?